Hi there, my name is Hussein Haji and I'm the executive chef here for the Students' Union at the university. So we have Sex Week upon us right now, and also it's Valentine's Day. So what I wanted to do for you guys is show you guys a little dessert. Now with COVID and everything going on, not everybody wants to maybe venture out for dinner right now, or you want to do something special at home and have it a little bit more intimate. So generally what I've noticed is that a lot of people are more intimidated by desserts. So I'm going to walk you through a great dessert for Valentine's Day or any time you want it to, for somebody special. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a flourless chocolate torte with a chocolate mousse with a salted caramel drizzle. So we're going to get started with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the flourless chocolate torte. So it's very simple, very easy to do, and obviously gluten-free, the whole flourless part of it. So right here, what I have is a double boiler. So what you have is that you have simmering water at the bottom of this pot, and you put another bowl on top. In this bowl here right now I have butter and I have chocolate right now. So when it comes to the chocolate, you can do any kind of chocolate, depending on what your budget is. You can go to a Walmart and get a really cheap chocolate, but you want to do is get a semi-sweet chocolate. So you don't want something like a milk chocolate because it'll be really sweet. Or you can actually go out to a specialty chocolate store, like the Chocolate Lab here in Calgary, and get a really nice chocolate if you want to splurge a little, I guess you could say. So right now what we're doing is we're slowly melting the chocolate and the butter together so that we can make a nice homogenized mix. The reason we add butter to it is that it makes the chocolate into more a liquid state, right? So if you want to thin out chocolate, you add a fat to it. So you can add butter, you can add a flavored style of oil, you can add cocoa butter to that. Obviously we're using butter today. And the opposite, if you want to thicken up any kind of chocolate, you add water to it, which sounds weird, but it actually congeals it up and it makes it thicker. So you got to be very careful. So when you're using the double boiler here, you want to be very careful not to get water inside of it, or it'll start to thicken up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little mix. As you can see, it's starting to melt. And we're kind of going to spin this around. So this will take a few minutes. You don't need to rush it. Could take anywhere from, I would say at least 7 to 10 minutes for you to melt all the chocolate. So you want to make sure the butter's melted, and you want to make sure the chocolate's melted. And again, you don't have to have cold butter. Even room temperature butter is totally fine. It'll probably make it go a little quicker as well. So we're going to wait for this to fully melt. So now that we've had the chocolate and butter fully melted, I want to add some of the sugar in over the double boiler. So the reason for that is I want the sugar to melt a little bit. If you're making a larger, thicker cake, you could add it off to the side. But as you can see, when I start to plate up, I'm doing something a little bit thinner so that we can make it look restaurant quality or fancy. I'm not saying any ingredients right now, but it'll be posted all online, so you don't have to try to write anything down or try to follow this. Step-by-step instructions and everything will be written down online so that you guys can follow this easily. So you want to give that a quick stir, kind of just let some of the sugars melt and dissolve a little bit. So this should take about, I want to say 2 to 3 minutes or so, depending how hot your bowl is. But they'll just make a nice, silky, smooth, flourless torte with no grainy texture. Sometimes when you have a cake or any kind of torte, you can taste that little graininess in your mouth. That is due to the sugar not melting completely. So we want to avoid that. We want a nice, smooth, silky texture to that. that we've cooled our bowl off the double boiler, you want to let it cool down a little bit. So I'll let it say at least cool down for about 5 minutes or so. The reason for that is that we're going to add some eggs into it. If we add the eggs into a hot mixture, we're going to get scrambled eggs, and obviously that's not what we want for our torte. So now that we kind of let it cool down a bit, we're going to crack 7 eggs into here. So full eggs and no shells. And then kind of what you would like to do is you want to put 1 or 2 eggs in at a time and then whisk it in. Just so you can make sure that it's fully incorporated. And I promise you, this is probably the hardest part of it all. So, and you'll start to see it come together. Okay, now that it's incorporated, we're going to add another egg. As you can see, I like to start off with 2 eggs first and then work out a single egg at a time. The 2 eggs help it cool down a little bit more, just to ensure. So the big thing right now is that a lot of the desserts that we're doing right now, or that we do, has a lot of chocolate to it, synonymous to whether it's Valentine's Day or something like that. You know, chocolate is somewhat of an aphrodisiac. I mean, it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. I would say at least thousands of years. You know, in all different cultures around the world. Mexico, has some great chocolates out there. They actually add a little spice to it in Mexico, like when they do a hot chocolate. When I was out there, they actually made a hot chocolate with some of the chocolate from Mexico, from that region, and they added some 𝗔𝗿𝗁𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗏 in there, and oh, it's fantastic. So you can do a lot with chocolate. Now that we got all the eggs mixed in, so you have a couple options. You can add some almond extract, which we like to do, as well as some vanilla extract. You can add in, you know, it's up to you. You can add in a splash of bourbon or a splash of whiskey into that. If you want to change up the flavor profile, that's totally up to you. But for us right now, I'm just going to add in some almond extract and some vanilla extract into that. By adding this, it just enhances the flavors, brings out the chocolate profile, gives a bit of a a vanilla flavor to that. So just makes the product that much better. All right, now that you've added everything in and everything is stirred up, what you want to do is you want to preheat your oven. Because we're doing a thinner cake, we're going to preheat it to 320 degrees for the oven. If you're doing something that's a little bit thicker, You're going to go up to 350 to 370 for that, and it's going to take a little bit longer. So what you want to do is you want to add some parchment paper down, and you want to spray the outside. So you just want to ensure that it doesn't stick. So what I like to do is just kind of pour this in, just like so. Get a spatula, make sure you get everything off the bowl, all those good bits, just to ensure that we get everything in. All right, I'm gonna throw that off to the side. I have a little palette knife here that I like to use to spread it around, but I kind of just tilt the pan a little bit just to spread it around a bit, just to ensure that we get an even layer. And the most important part here is to try to use an even baking tray so that you can get an even cook. I give it a little bit of a pat down, just to try to get rid of some of the air bubbles. If you're a perfectionist, you can actually take a blowtorch and blowtorch the top here to get rid of a lot of the air bubbles here. But in the baking process, it all should be good. So throw that into the oven. And with TV magic, we have one that's already done. So you can see how it turns out, right? When it cooks, you'll start to see it rise, and then what will end up happening is that it'll start to flatten out. So it almost looks like a brownie, but a little bit different, obviously. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next part of the dessert. That's a chocolate mousse. So again, now that you still have that water going for a double boiler, just keep that water going, and we're gonna add some more chocolate. Again, you can go to either direction on the chocolate. You can go something a little cheaper, you can go something a little more expensive. Again, it's gotta be a semi-sweet chocolate, and if you, something just to add in there, if you don't like something that's really sweet, you can actually go to a darker chocolate, like 7% cacao chocolate, a darker chocolate, which will make it a little bit more bitter and not as sweet. So that's up to you want to do. You can just, you know, based on how much chocolate you're using right now, you can just swap it out for any other kind of chocolate if you like. So you can either do this, we're gonna do a dark chocolate mousse. You can do a white chocolate mousse. The recipe's the same, you just gotta change out the chocolate. So first things first, you got your chocolate melting on your double boiler right now. And then what you're gonna do to that is you're actually gonna add some butter to that. And you're gonna add some water to that. So you're adding something that's gonna thin it out and actually something that's gonna thicken it up. Sounds a little weird, but it works out really well. It's easier for something to when you pipe it out. So while this is going, what you wanna do is you wanna whip some whipped cream. So right here, I got some 36% heavy cream. And I have a KitchenAid. I mean, if you don't have a KitchenAid, you can use your hand, you can use a whisk, you can use an electric mixer, wherever you like. The key to it is ensuring that your cream is cold and your bowl is cold. With them both being cold, it actually makes the process quicker and it makes it easier. So all we're gonna do is just dump that in there. So I like to turn it on high, just to let it go. So one thing you gotta be careful with when it comes to cream, you wanna ensure that you don't overmix it, because if you do overmix it, it actually turns into butter. So you'll start to see it separate. If you wanna make your own butter at home, that's up to you, but that's a whole different video for that. So just be careful with that. You wanna go to stiff peaks. So I'll show you when you get to stiff peaks of what it should look like. So your chocolate's melting. You can, once it's all melted, as you can see over here, it's already fully melted. I'm going to add in some vanilla extract. You get that all melted in. Give that a quick stir. And we're just going to keep it off to the side. Over here, I have a pot going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in 3 egg yolks to that. And I'm going to add in some sugar. So you want to keep this on low heat. If you keep it on anything higher, again, we'll have scrambled eggs. So we don't want that. So I just grabbed myself a wooden spoon here, and we're going to stir. So we're going to want this mixture to come up to 160 degrees. So if you have a thermometer, any kind of thermometer, we use these thermometers, a surface thermometer. I mean, with COVID, I'm pretty sure everyone's got one of these kind of thermometers. So I know my wife was checking my temperature, I don't know, 12 times a day, just to make sure that I didn't have COVID, and the kids. But yeah, so you can use that. So you want to constantly be stirring and keep on moving the mixture around so that you don't get scrambled eggs. So what you're really doing here is dissolving the sugar again. And with these egg yolks, the egg yolks will be a thickener, per se, to your chocolate mixture. Now that I got it somewhat dissolved, I'm going to add in some water to this. And let that cook out a little bit more as well. And just keep on stirring until you get to that right temperature. Now it depends on how vigorously you're stirring. It could take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. If your water was cold that you put in there, that could take it a little bit longer as well. So just follow the temperature guide to 160 and we'll be good. So what I'll do is all right, so now you can see our whipped cream is whipped, and you got a stiff peak. So when you actually, put your spatula in there or your whisk, you can see that it's making a stiff peak, that the peak is not falling. So that's what you want. Now at this point, you can throw this back in the fridge for a bit if you haven't your chocolate hasn't been melted or hasn't cooled down a bit. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add our egg mixture to this. Pour that in here. And we're going to stir that around. All right, take a quick break. I'm just going to put this in the freezer for a second to cool down. All right, now that your mixture is cooled down, you'll start to see it'll actually thicken up. Once it's fully cooled down, which could take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, you can speed up the process by putting it into an ice bath. So just get a bowl, put some ice in it, add a little water, and you can actually just put that in there and just constantly stir it. And you'll start to see it get thicker and thicker. So once it's fully cooled down, what you're gonna do is you're gonna add your mixture to your whipped cream. And what you're going to do is you're going to fold that in. So I'm going to add everything in. And then you're going to make almost like a figure 8. And you're folding it in so that you can keep in all the air. And you'll have a few lumps here with the whipped cream, but you see the color will lighten up. And the most important part now is you have to refrigerate this mousse for at least 4 hours. So then, as you can see, it's a little bit runny right now, but once it gets refrigerated, it'll be really thick, and you can actually pipe it out. You can put it into cups. You can do a lot with it, which I'll show you here in a few minutes. But now that you can see it's all incorporated, now we can throw it into the fridge for 4 hours or overnight. So it's up to you. And then actually this mousse will actually store for about, I would say, at least 4 to 7 days in your fridge. You don't want to keep it anything longer than that. Make sure it's in an airtight container though. So that's the most important part. All right. All right. So now that we've made our chocolate torte and we've made our chocolate mousse, now it's time to plate it up. So what I like to do, as you can see, I opened up the torte, I got it out of the pan, and I have one of these ring cutters. I like to do little circles. Now, if you don't have a ring cutter, I understand. You can use the tops of any kind of container you have. Like if you have one of those aerosol canola oils, you can actually use the top of that container. Anything that you have around, if there's a bowl, you just want something that's a little bit sharp. So what I do over here is the edges are going to be a little bit crispy, so I like to kind of use something more in the middle. So just give it a little cut, and you can pop that out just like that. And then I'm going to do another one just over here. And I'm going to pop that out. As you can see, I got two ring cutters, two rings right here. Okay, great. Now that we got our mousse cut out, obviously there's a lot more left. You can do anything with that. You can even cut out a different shape if you like. Do rectangles, but again, like I said before, I like the round ones. And so what we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna show you how to plate that up. I got some store-bought caramel sauce here. So what I'm gonna do is this a famous swoop. So we're gonna pour a little bit down. We're gonna make a pool, just like so. And like I said before, you kind of keep your spoon at just less than a 90-degree angle, and then you're just gonna do a little swoop across the plate, just like so. And then what I like to do here is I like to take some finishing salt and add that to the caramel. Everybody loves salted caramel, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, now that's off to the side. We're gonna build our cake. So with the mousse, now that's been chilled, I actually put it into a piping bag. You don't need a piping bag. You can actually use, if you don't have a piping bag, you can use a Ziploc bag. And you can cut the end of a Ziploc bag and use that to pipe. I mean, I have a nice fancy tip here, so I'm just gonna use that. So what I like to do is I like to just kind of get this started off first. And I'm just gonna do a little ring just around like this. Just to cover that up. And to add a little bit of freshness to it, and just to kind of cut some of the chocolatiness, I'm gonna add some fresh fruit. So I have some raspberries here. You can use raspberries, you can use strawberries, you can really use anything you like. I like to kind of just arrange them like so. Make it nice and round. Put one in the middle. Try to use the same size. If you're gonna use raspberries, try to use the same size as you can, or try to keep them on the same level. And then just over here, I'm gonna pipe again, just on top of this one here. Just slowly pipe around, just like so. And then we're gonna do that. I have a palette knife here, which helps me with my plating. So I'm gonna just kind of pick it up, drop that down on top. And then I'm gonna grab the other piece and put that right on top. You gotta give that a little bit of a balance. And you can kind of see how that looks great. So we're not done just yet. I got a bar here of chocolate, and then what I'm gonna do is actually gonna shave some of the chocolate off. So you can use a vegetable peeler, and I just kind of shave it into a bowl. Give you some nice ribbons, so that you can kind of use that for a garnish. You can use both sides here, and you can kind of see you get some little ribbons here, so it'll be great for garnish. So do that. So now I have this. So what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to grab a spoon here, and I'm going to take some of the chocolate shavings, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle that right on top. The more chocolate, the better, I say. A little fancy. Now, with a lot of desserts I like to do, I like to add some kind of herb component or maybe a savory component. Raspberries, so berries and basil go really well together. So I have some little basil leaves just to add a little freshness, a little bit of color to it. So I'm just going to kind of put a few here. However you want it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just arrange it however you like. But you're just going to make it so that it looks pretty neat. And again, you just want to grab some of the little basil leaves that you have that you get from the grocery store. And you just kind of want to pop them on. Like you'll have little guys like this. I like to pull off and put that on. I got to use these tongs. My hands are not as steady as they used to be, so awesome. So give that a little bit of a clean there. And there you go. So you got a beautiful chocolate torte with chocolate mousse, salted caramel, a little bit of basil leaves, some shaved chocolate on top. So it's a chocolate overload, but you know, something great. I'm sure you can impress your significant other. So I hope you guys try this and enjoy. Thank you very much, guys.